So, this week's topic is gravity. Let's talk about gravity. It is so much more important than you realize. Last time we discussed how some children hold more tension in their bodies, and some of you may have thought, well, that's not my kid. I've kind of got a floppy kid, a lazy kid, maybe. Some of you may have thought my kid appears to be a combination of both. Somehow they are tight, but also weak. And as with everything, it's never as black and white. You can still have a child with a body that is tight and rigid, but also doesn't have this ability to support their bodies against the weight of gravity due to lower muscle tone or weakness. Lazy. That's a word that comes up often. My kid is just lazy. They don't want to stand up straight or sit up properly because they're lazy. But that's just not the case. I tell parents 95% of the time, you do not have a child that is predisposed to laziness. Generally speaking, we as humans are predisposed to be pleasers and to want to be successful. So when our child consistently does something against what is being requested, we need to recognize that something else may be going on. There is an underlying root cause creating this unwanted behavior. In this case, we're talking about appearing lazy or appearing to not want to hold the body up and engage in functional tasks with the proper body mechanics. When it comes to gravity, it starts with the development in utero. As that little baby is growing, they're floating around like a little astronaut. And in the same way that astronauts have no sense of up or down, that baby in utero is floating around with no sense of which way is up because they haven't been exposed to gravity yet. But as this baby is getting bounced around in the belly in all different directions, it starts to build a sense of itself in utero. It's doing this all in the subconscious parts of the brain as the brain is developing. As the brain develops through the sensory input coming into the body, we have the movement system, which we call the vestibular system. And this grows as the baby is bouncing around in this amniotic gravity eliminated fluid. The auditory system grows as it receives information through vibration and sound waves through the belly. And our somatosensory system, or our touch and pressure sensors, start developing as the baby gets larger, taking up more space as it's pushing against the uterine wall. So all of this sensory development is happening in the subconscious parts of the brain. And the combination of these sensory inputs is laying down a foundation for your child's developing sensory motor system. Ideally, the little baby is in this healthy environment for a good 40 to 41 weeks, and now it's ready to come out. As this baby transitions from this gravity-free buoyant environment out into the world, if it was able to think, I believe it would be thinking, boy, this gravity is heavy. And in a typically developing child, or a child that has generally typical muscle tone, gravity may feel as one expects it to feel. But gravity, the sense of gravity is relative for each individual, depending on their overall muscle tone and makeup. Our muscle tone relates to the tension that our muscles hold. So if you think about two baskets, you can have a basket that's got a very tight weave, and you've got a basket that's more of a looser weave. Both baskets have the power to hold a dozen apples, but the more loosely woven basket looks droopier. And its experience of gravity is going to feel heavier than the tighter woven basket. This is what happens for many of our kids and adults. Remember, we're reflecting on our own bodies as well. For many children, holding their bodies upright against the weight of gravity is hard. Gravity is heavy, so they compensate by using your body as a support, or the furniture, the table, the walls, the seating equipment. They fatigue quickly and they want to be carried. They lack endurance. They lean on you, slouch on you. They slide down in their chair. They hold their head when doing schoolwork. They refuse to stay seated at the dinner table. All of these behaviors are clues for you. They are telling you, this feels too hard for me, Mom or Dad. I need to find another way to cope with this task. So the baby comes out and immediately begins to experience this gravity thing. They have absolutely no ability to move against it just yet, but they've got all these big people picking them up, moving them, rocking them, touching them, hugging and squeezing them, talking to them. All of this input is building those systems, the vestibular or the movement system, the somatosensory, touch system, and the auditory or sound sensors. As those sensory inputs come into the body, it builds neural pathways and it connects those neural pathways to motor outputs. This is also supported by reflexive movements called primitive reflexes. The human being is really just fascinating, and these tiny little helpless beings have the ability to use these reflexes and the sensory input to start engaging in functional skills. So the reflexes support the ability to develop healthy suck, swallow, breathe patterns, to be able to bottle or breastfeed. The reflexes support the baby in starting to lift their head against gravity to acquire head control. This is the strengthening of the foundation, gaining this sense of self through the sensory information coming into the body, and the primitive reflexes supporting that skill development and building the strength to move against gravity. This vital piece lower down on the pyramid of skills supports higher level skills of emotional regulation. Does my body feel safe? Does it feel grounded and connected?